Hello, everybody, and welcome to a semi-impromptu stream. How's everybody doing out there tonight? Let's see. I see TOS. How you doing? Ranting Monkey. Hey, man. How you doing? Random American. Ryan. Nobody Not Me. How are you guys doing tonight? Yet another Squart and Elwolf, who are the first two there. How's everyone doing? It's exciting out here tonight, isn't it? Well, a few things kind of popped up that really enraged me about what they're doing to the beauty that is Dungeons & Dragons. And I thought I'm going to have a little stream to talk about it. But first, we're going to do a little bit of history of what else has been going on in D&D in the last little while to kind of build up. Hey, BG. You're ready to listen to my opinions? Oh, awesome. I like that. Oh, apparently I left the stream playing. Okay, so first of all, some good news, because there's a new little dice tower thing coming out, and it looks really, really cool. Let me make sure this isn't going to dox me first. Sometimes they get my address on these things. Bring on the ridge. I'm a lot less angry now than I was at like 9 a.m. when I first saw this, and I was lit up because it's so freaking stupid. This will probably be a short stream, but I kind of wanted to get this out of my system. First, check out this. This is the little statue from the cover of first edition. That's the statue they were stealing the gem eye out of. This is a dice tower. You put dice in the back and it rolls out down here. And I thought this was really cool. I'm not paying $50 for it, but by November, that thing will be about $10. I want one of these real bad because that looks really cool. And I'm an old school player, so this is a bit of nostalgia here. So really cool. It's a dice roller, but hey, whatever. It'd be fun to have. Cool little desk piece. So I thought that was neat. So get that out of the way before we get to the stupid shit. So for those of you that don't know, D&D has been pretty bizarre lately. First, we have to do the mandatory little bit of shilling. And I'll drop my Streamlabs in there. You may hear some noise out the window. That's the sub pump clearing out my basement. Because there was a little bit of flooding in there over the night. So, yep, shameless shilling accomplished. All right, so let's go back to January 27th, when we learned if D&D was racist or not. Are you telling me D&D isn't bizarre already? Oh, it used to be really cool, and now they're trying to make it dumb and broken and nonsense like that. But hi, Corey. Hey, Rotten Corpse. You gonna watch the replay later? Oh, okay. Have fun, man. It shouldn't be a long stream, so thanks for stopping in, man. Appreciate that. All right, now if I can hit the correct buttons. Oh, we'll get to the wheelchairs. Don't worry. Flood Love Dungeons are not good at all, man. No. People get mad. They're like, oh, my ankle's all wet, Mr. Jack. Let me out. And I'm like, no. All right, so this article came from Arc Digital. Is Dungeons & Dragons racist? If so, can it be fixed, or are we blowing smoke? Well, Dominic, you overdressed twat. Let's find out what your dumb little article says. I know for some people this is going to be old news because we've covered it before on other streams, and I've covered some of this before, but I want some historical context of why everything's pissing me off and what's going on for people that are new or people that miss those events. The discourse has been fulminating for some time over problematic elements in the granddaddy of tabletop role-playing games, Dungeons & Dragons. That's how I hear him talking, very pretentious-like. The central grievance is that representing different races of fantasy creatures, such as elves, hobbits, hobgoblins, and orcs, as possessing unique traits qualifies as race essentialism. Well, my cat and dog are different. The cat's very nimble and agile, and the dog's big and stupid and blunders around. So that's not race essentialism. That's reality. Some players have demanded progressive reforms from Wizards of the Coast, the game's publisher, and a resolution to the controversy was expected to come last November in the form of new rules. Naturally, when those new rules were released, the aggrieved progressives weren't satisfied, because they never are. In Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, the rule change consisted of about a page and a little rules box which stated you can mix and match whatever traits you desired for the race you intended to play. This gives players more autonomy over the game, but leaves unaddressed the issue of race essentialism. No, it doesn't. You know why? Because the rules are guidelines. You could just say, hey, we're not following that rule. Wow, problem solved. Look at that. No, you need it written down because you're a fucking retard. The backlash has been such that the new Unearthed Arcana will give even more rules on dealing with race to address this dissatisfaction. Custom lineage. Oh, this is from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Custom lineage. Instead of choosing one of the game's races for your characters at first level, you can use the following traits to represent your character's lineage. Oh, creature type. You're a humanoid. You determine the appearance and whether you resemble any of your kin. So you don't even have to look like the others of your. So you could be a lizard man that looks like your neighbor Steve. That's weird and dumb. Why don't you just say everybody plays a human, and we'll go with that and ignore everything else? Well, would it be an elf? You could be a human that thinks he's an elf because you obviously have mental problems. Size, you are small or medium, your choice. Well, what if I want to be gargantuan? Huh? Have you thought of that? Huh? Have you? All dungeons now need to be gargantuan, so I feel accepted. Speed, your base walking speed is 30 feet. Oh, ableist. Ability score increase. One ability score is increased by 2 feet. Gain 1 feet of your choice for which you qualify. Variable trait. They're just going to destroy all the rules because you can't have a set of guidelines if everybody's going to bitch about every single little thing. Well, you said I have to roll an attack roll, and I think of it more as a hug roll, so I demand it be changed. Fuck off. Race in D&D is not analogous to the word's usage in everyday life. Yeah, it is. There's the human race, there's the elven race, there's the dwarven race. The fact that you're a race, a ethnocentric, obsessed weirdo, and you conflate that with race, as in those people aren't of the same race, that's not on us. That's not on the D&D players. That's on you, weirdo. Rather, a race is a separate type of being created by a god and set upon the world with certain ingrained traits determined by their creator. Oh, that sounds familiar. For example, the kobold, which is not human, by the way, it's a separate species altogether. They do know that humans and monkeys are both primates, but they're not both human, right? So they're both humanoid, but they're not both human. Apparently not. So Kobold gets -2 to a strength score because he's small, and +2 to his dexterity score because they're wiry. He's puny, but hard to pin down for stabbing. Alternately, the dwarf gets +2 constitution for being typically hardy. Yeah, they're sturdy little dudes with low center of gravity. Some critics have equated this to 20th century race science. What? And are especially concerned about the negative traits associated with these fantastical creatures. They don't realize these are fake creatures. There are no dwarves. None that we found anyway. The people we call dwarves are midgets. They're just really tiny little humans. They're still human. They're just shorter. Dwarves are a specific subset of humanoids. They are not humans. They are dwarven. Complaints about D&D are nothing new, as any veteran of the satanic panic of the 80s and 90s will tell you. It was mostly the 80s. Indeed, the categories of devils and demons were altered to Batsu and Tanari in response to the concerns of evangelical Christians who believed the game was a doorway to demonic possession. Yeah, they had a lot more influence back then. Thanks, Pat Paulding. Now the assault comes from the left flank, and Wizards of the Coast is struggling to appease the diversity, equity, and inclusion crowd, which is pointless because they're insane. I don't believe that these reforms have ill intentions or are merely capitalizing cynically and opportunistically on the tumult of 2020, but I do believe they've taken a true premise and contorted it to reach an absurd, censorious end. If we apply today's normative rejection of race essentialism to the D&D universe, in which, unlike in our world, race actually exists, for example, of course, we'll find that the universe to be racist. Whether sprung from the maggots festering on Ymir's rotting corpse or chiseled out of the shining jewels in the depths of the mountains, or even from the ants with which are the ancestors of the Myrmidians, humans love mythic origins, creator gods, and flavoring the world around them. Gods who impart their virtues and vices into whatever they create. Any mythos with such traits will inevitably be considered racist by a culture that denies both the existence of race as such and the very possibility of intergroup trait variance. But if we treat D&D and its fictive ancestors with their own terms, we find something radically different. For example, sitting at the knees of J.R.R. Tolkien, we hear of the slow blossoming friendship of Gilmy and Legolas, two scions of races separated by 1,000 years of conflict, and delight in how they come to respect each other for and not in spite of their differences. I reference the books here as opposed to the movies because Gilmy's talents as a poet always surprises me. That's kind of gay. I have always believed throughout 15 years of playing that D&D is a game about overcoming racism. In a way, I can see where you would get that. I think it's more overcoming differences in general, not specifically race. Wizards of the Coast has even made a valiant effort to write a city without racial barriers. In Waterdeep Dragon Heist, we find ourselves in the metropolitan city of splendors, so similar to London in architecture, design, and weather that I felt compelled to give its people Brooklyn accents. Okay. Yes, I'm very salty about New York. Yeah, New York's a shithole. In this city, every sort of person is welcome, and we learned in Volo's Waterdeep, including cross-dressers, trans folk, and those who descend to gender in the manner of the gods. Yeah, that's a little bit of wokeism inserted there that wasn't there before and wasn't necessary. You could just, are you so unimaginative that you couldn't just be like, yeah, there's people of all stripes here? Mainly ruled by an elf, a first among equals of a class of merchant princes, Waterdeep's archmages, Vajar Safar or something, a capable black woman in her 30s. What? Everyone is welcome. The place is built like such a wonderland that I had to turn the class strife as a plot point. Of course you did. I'll leave the reader to decide if this was awesome or not. It sounds lazy. But the dock ward eventually burned into a proletarian revolution, which was put down as quickly as bounties for some of my players went up. So you had a little commie revolution and it failed. Okay. In my current campaign, nobody cares about your character, dude. Descent into Avernus. The story pivots when players encounter Rhea Mantlemorn, survivor of whatever horrors befell the holy citadel of Eturl, which the campaign is about. Rhea becomes a major character in the story, as does older Ravengard, a missing noble of Baldur's Gate, whose players are tasked with finding Eltrol, whatever. Both of these important characters are black, though not much is made of the fact. Of course not. Nobody cares. Nobody cares because there's other things to worry about, like dragons. Does representation of human diversity in D&D matter? Or are critics only concerned with fantasy races? No, because they're a bunch of crybabies. They'll be worried about more. Look, he even included a picture of his stupid character that I don't care about. Another positive example of diverse representation is the new wheelchair option for characters. Although this was developed independently from Wizards of the Coast and is free. Well, yes and no. We'll get to that. There are now rules and even models for this, such as a character... And such a character has appeared in the hit D&D show Critical Role. That's overrated. Where he served as a guide in a frozen wasteland. You have a character that's in a wheelchair running around in the snow as a guide. Yeah, that dude would be dead in 10 minutes. A badger would eat him. In spite of such attempts at inclusive storytelling, some of the show's fans still light the torches whenever there's a perceived slight. As when a fake creature created a fake religion which became real, and it was perceived as a slight against faith in general. Well, you got a bunch of angry retards on every stripe. There's even a fervor over a character's skin tone being lighter in new official art, as well as backlash over what kind of sponsors the show takes, like when they had a Wendy's episode. I'm not even going to ask. Critical Role's stupid, so... not that they'll complain about the rank consumerism of video games like Idle Champions of Forgotten Realms, which more or less plays itself while trying to sell you new characters to fiddle with. And we'll get back to this guy in a second. Much of the discourse is revolved around Gary Gygax, the late co-creator of D&D, who believed that girls did not inherently want to play games like D&D. Yeah, he wasn't wrong. Naturally, the woke crowd has singled out his involvement as particularly problematic and placed a pox upon every version of the game that seems to bear his influence. Despite the fact that TSR ran D&D into the ground in the 90s, that was long after Gygax left. And Wizards of the Coast bought the property late in that decade. Indeed, it feels as if Gygax is the game's inextricable original sin. He's the co-creator, and it was great under him. It really started to go downhill in quality after he left. They got real greedy. Included in Gygax's cosmos and Tolkien's was the notion that beings can be inherently evil. Even today, D&D gameplay presumes moral realism, despite toying with relativism in its books. So what? Originally, the highest expression of the alignment, lawful good, was the paladin, a self-sacrificing holy warrior who would always die rather than allow evil to go unpunished. This nerd gained great powers by playing to his alignment, and as such was harshly punished for breaking it. That is, one must play character in accordance with a concrete moral code or suffer repercussions. Yeah, because you would lose your abilities. That's one of the things that would keep you on the straight and narrow. Now, however, paladins are just fighters with special powers. Yeah, that's true. They are. That's lazy. They may require their powers by taking oaths, but their narrative value is greatly diminished by allowing them to choose sides without consequence. And that's really what a lot of this is about, is people don't want to have consequences. It's become power gaming. The orcs were made barbarous by their god Grumsh. Without these clear strictures, the cosmos of the game is harmed, and high-level play isn't as fun when you go to visit Thor by knowing which plane of existence he lives on. Okay, here's some orcs. New one on the left, old one on the right. Typically, the discourse focuses on the drow, dark elves, and the orcs. The former because they used to be depicted not only as dark, but also as possessing African qualities. No, the dark elves come from Norse mythology, you fucking halfwit. And the latter because Tolkien based them in part on the Mongols. Okay, who cares? The orcs were corrupted elves. Indeed, I read an essay last year in which the author, an Asian man, stated that he would play orcs with pride because of this. Well, then he's a moron. It is doubtful, however, that Tolkien described orcs as repulsive versions to Europeans of the least lovely Mongol types with racist intent. The implication obviously being that real Mongols are not repulsive. Some argue absurdly that orcs are stand-ins for black people of some sort, though I personally find them to be more Gallic than anything else, what with their penchant for decorating with skulls and settling disputes by single combat. That was really common in the Middle Ages, so you're dumb. Orcs are more of a Rorschach test. One sees in them whatever one is predisposed to see, whether corrupted elves or some ugly stereotype. Maybe they're just the representation of the evil other, the thing in the night that wants to do you harm. How's that, huh? Did you think of that? No, because you're all obsessed with race. Now, this guy isn't necessarily agreeing with a lot of this stuff, but I still think he's being a bit of a weasel. It's worth noting that 2 new source books in 5th edition for Eberron and Wildmount campaigns take the position that orcs have no inherent bloodlust, perhaps in response to woke pressure, perhaps not, probably. The bloodlust is to represent their barbarism and lack of civilization and probably some sort of inherent limitation in their genetics, much the same way that like a shark smells blood and frenzies, that sort of thing. That doesn't make me sharkist. It just is a fact of biology, the hate science. The most famous D&D character, Dritz, is a drow, a dark elf, whose popularity made him a fortune for his creator, but his story of abandoning his people in order to be good requires the drow to be an evil race who worship Lolth, the Spider Queen, a demon goddess who insists on a matriarchal society in which males are used as toys and only females hold the highest office, except for the Archmage. While the committed critic will invent some way to racially problemize Dritz's story, the more salient criticism is that he's too much of a knockoff of Michael Moorcock's Elric of Melnibone. Elric was an albino, And he was also an aspect of the Eternal Champion, so not really a fair comparison. They're just both elvish. So, okay, whatever. He is kind of a knockoff, I guess, but I never really got Dritz as a character. Can we not take inspiration from the real world for the fantasies we build? Every game master makes his own world, and in mine, the orcs are desert nomads like the Fremen of Frank Herbert's Dune. Stop talking about your campaign, dude. No one cares. But talk like the late Sean Connery due to their tusks. Okay. Tolkien's inspirations were naturally informed by his scholarship on the mythology of Northern Europe as well as his Catholicism. The critic's beef could be stilled to the following. There should be no inherent disadvantage of two races in D&D. There should be no inherently evil races. Every people should mix with every other, and there should be rules for this. We must continually repent in sackcloth and ashes since the game was co-created by a man with racist and sexist beliefs. I think that's an oversimplification. I don't think he was a racist or a sexist. I think he was right that the majority of women in the 70s and 80s when he was gaming did not play D&D, and I think that's largely still true today. It may not be as true, but it was definitely true for his time. And to assess his beliefs based on modern standards is unreasonable. These are unreasonable demands. Yeah, there you go. Getting rid of inherent evil, for example, would create a huge hole in the game's cosmos, requiring us to abolish the devils and demons. It would also require much more work for the dungeon master who, sans token bad guys, must now make every infraction absurdly morally complex interaction. Yes, that's very true. Those who want to expunge race essentialism from D&D also happen to be the same people claiming there are such things as essential blackness or whiteness. Very true. Although I take issue with the fact that there is race essentialism in it. No amount of accommodation from Wizards of the Coast will satisfy people who reject logical coherence on such a basic level. Is Dungeons and Dragons racist? By definition, yes, but it is there so players can overcome prejudice, make friends, and carve out places in the world. No, I don't think that. I think you could read it that way, but there's inherent good and inherent evil, a sort of yin and yang. Why are you anti-Asian? I would ask. But I'm a white male hobbit-like creature. What do I know? Well, I think you're so close to getting it. So, yeah, that was the first controversy that we really saw, was the racism, especially with the orcs. That was really what brought our attention. Oh, thank you, RVA Dar. Sorry I missed that. Tell us how you really feel. Oh, buckle in, buddy. It's going to get dumber. This is just the beginning, and thank you, RVA. This is just the beginning. Oh, I'm on top chat. Shit. Oh, hey, Dark. Hey, Kyle. Hey, Shroom. Hey, Sir Adamantine. Ryan Quinn. Hey, Camel. Ginger Snap. Sir Quack. Oh, a whole bunch of people showed up while I was reading. RVA Dar. Random. Tyler. How you guys all doing? Oh, Quinn. You are onto something that we are going to discuss, because you can tell a lot of these people are either very new to D&D or have never really tried to think the logic through of what they're saying. So they don't believe in evil. Fine. If brigands come to take all your stuff, you're just going to give it to them and be like, cool, man. Apparently, because that would be wrong of you to do that. One day, aren't we all supposed to try and get along, man? Hey, Duck Dog. Hey, Corey. Look, I just played a session yesterday where the main villain was essentially Freddy Krueger, but I guess I should feel bad for beating up a burn victim. Yeah. And he's just a misunderstood map. There's some bullshit like that. So that led us into this Polygon article that we have 25 people here. Awesome. It's only going to get dumber. Jack and Monkey stream in a nutshell. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes, isn't it? We find a lot of dumb. So that led us to this Polygon article. Dungeons & Dragons kicks off 2021 with its first wheelchair-accessible dungeon. This was in Candlekeep Adventures. Included 17 adventures from 19 designers. And some really garbage art. Call me Elizabeth Olsen. Now, they published Candlekeep Mysteries, and it was for 5th edition, 17 one-shot adventures, and it had a dungeon that was ADL compliant. Now they're padding it up here. And like most of these compilations, there's supposed to be different types of adventures. It's kind of like one session sittings, so you can play a quick side quest or something like that. Maybe give your guys some extra XP or some magic weapons or whatever you need to do to fix a broken thing in your campaign. And that's fine. Those are great. Side quests are always useful, especially because people like to get off on track. So you get a list of a bunch of people I don't care about who have worked on this. And you'll notice there's a lot of women's names on here. And, yeah, back in Gygax's day, and for that matter, most of my role-playing time, there were not that many female players. It was really like pulling teeth to get a girlfriend to play. Because that's usually who it was somebody's girlfriend who wanted to tag along because she either didn't trust her dude or was really clingy and showed up and was like, this is weird. I don't understand it. And then she'd end up playing a cleric and stand there and you'd have to tell her to heal somebody every 10 minutes. Otherwise, she'd be like, I'm bored. But now there are more women playing. There's still not that many percentage-wise. It's different everywhere, but percentage-wise, the majority of people that play are still men. You don't have to like that. It's just the facts. Okay, so we go on here. Among the designers on hand to give the press a preview of their contributions was actor and producer Jennifer Kretschmar, part of the Silver and Steel actual play group. I have no idea what that is or who this bitch is. Last summer, Kretschmer put lots of energy into creating the accessibility and gaming resource. She said it was important for her to make sure that her adventure was accessible to everyone. This is not something that's new to tabletop gaming or even D&D, but it was important for me to make accessibility part of my dungeons, Kretschmer said. As an ambulatory wheelchair user, I wanted people to have the opportunity to see themselves represented in game. We have the ability in fantasy to imagine things. Oh, like the ability to imagine not us in the game? Huh. So you're in a wheelchair and you picture a fantasy character in a medieval time period fighting dragons in a wheelchair? I think your imagination needs some work. We don't have to pay to make those accommodations. Okay. This is something we can imagine in our brains, and it's there. So why won't you imagine working legs? At the risk of being really crude, why wouldn't you imagine that? Why wouldn't you imagine that you're something totally different than what you are? Do you know elves in real life? I don't. You know why? Because they're not real. So it's something that was really important to me to put into my design. In fact, there's quite a lot of buzz about accessibility in tabletop role-playing games last year. Among who? The 5 people you know in Portland? Weirdo. That was thanks in part to Sarah Thompson, who goes by the hand. Who cares? The designer and consultant created the Combat Wheelchair, a D&D supplement available for free online. It has since been incorporated into the official canon of Matt Mercer's Critical Role. I don't care about Critical Role. Why is everybody obsessed with this stupid thing? There's even a line of figures suitable for at-home 3D printing from Strata Miniatures. Now, I looked into this. I did a little bit of due diligence for everybody. Now, as you recall in one of my early streams, we did talk about challenges of publishing RPGs to a more inclusive future. And we discussed this. This one is from Gizmodo. There's a popular saying in the cosplay community, cosplay is for everyone. No, it's not. Normal people have jobs. This expands to nerd culture as a whole, but sometimes fandoms need a boost. This is where designer Sarah Thompson's Combat Wheelchair Dungeons & Dragons mod comes into play. This is so weird. So weird. IO9 has an exclusive look at 2 miniatures created in tribute to her mod, as well as a talk to the designers about how this is only the beginning. Strata Miniatures has unveiled a series of new combat miniatures featuring wheelchair users for its ongoing collection, which was designed to model Thompson's The Combat Wheelchair mod she created for D&D. The guide debuted last month and has grown in popularity, with wheelchair users praising it for creating an inclusive way to bring adaptive devices into D&D. Why do you need those? In any fantasy or medieval setting, people like that would either be cured with magic or eaten by dragons. Or orcs, for that matter, or Umber Hulks, or a billion other creatures. You'd be dragged into the abyss by Ifrits. There's 1,000 ways you would be picked off in a setting like this. Or just if in an actual historical setting, they'd have taken you out to the woods and then left you there. The Hansel and Gretel style. The guide debuted last month and has grown in popularity with the... I just read that. There's also been a backlash, one triggered by the hypocritical belief that a role-playing game where characters wield magic, weaponry, and otherworldly feats with the greatest of ease cannot include a combat wheelchair. It's not that it can't, it's that it's pointless. If you're that powerful that you can cast Fireball, you're powerful enough to go talk to a cleric about a heal spell. Why wouldn't you? That's weird. It's weird to have a combat wheelchair. It makes no sense. IO9 can exclusively reveal the 2 new miniatures, a human fighter and a half-elf wizard. Strata Miniatures also debuted a human bard, which we have included in the slideshow below. It's the company's first combat wheelchair miniature to include an amputee design, which they created following community feedback. Because that's what was missing here. Not functional legs or an exoskeleton. No, it's an amputee. You're not even a pirate. You don't have a peg leg that's like +2 versus vampires. No, you're just some cripple in a wheelchair. It's fucking stupid. An interview conducted over video chat, an in-depth conversation about the combat wheelchair guide, overall community response, and how game companies are expanding their inclusivity with Thompson and miniature game designer Russ Charles. Tom Leishman, who created the miniatures with Charles, was on call, but those answers weren't included in the Q&A. Below is an edited... I don't care about your conversation. These people are fucking dumb. A lot of my... okay, we're going to look at this because it is going to piss me off more. Because we're building up to something. There's a new thing out, and I want to talk about it because it pissed me off real bad. A lot of my friends use wheelchairs, and I kind of want to explore disability from a mechanic's point of view in D&D. Because I once tried to play a disabled character at a table, and our DM said, "Oh, I'm kind of like not comfortable with that because there's no rules. I don't know how to deal with that kind of thing." And they suggested I just take negatives, which I didn't think really reflected the experience was really like. Do you poop in a diaper? I'm sorry to be blunt, but do you poop in a diaper? If you get dumped out of your wheelchair, you're going to be able to run away from that slime that's coming after you, that green slime. What about the gelatinous cube? Is it going to eat you? Or you fall down a pit and your chair lands on a spike. Wheelchair's destroyed. Maybe you lived, but the chair's broken. How you get? What's your crawl speed? You gonna crawl out of there army style, fending off goblins with daggers? Okay, good luck with that. They come at you from behind. How's that, Crippy? What the fuck is wrong with these people? I brought up to a couple of my friends who use wheelchairs, and I said, it'd be pretty cool if there's a wheelchair in D&D that you could use in combat, because knowing about the Paralympics and things like sports like murder ball and wheelchair basketball and even rock climbing with wheelchair users as well, they're clearly doable. You need a lot of accessories like a flat surface. You got to go through the mountains on your wheelchair? How? How are you going to get through the terrain? How are you going to cross the desert in your combat wheelchair? Maybe if you were a wizard, okay, but it's pointless. Why wouldn't you just cast us? Never mind. Oh, so angry. So yeah, this goes on, and it pissed me off. So that one is a classic, but that's not even the best part, because thank you, Baby Vaso, for the donation. Even with the inclusion of women in male-dominated spaces such as trading card games, does it still feel strange when there are women around? It's like if they suddenly allowed females in football, how could you tackle a girl? I don't know. It can be, but it's usually made weird by the person. Sometimes women are annoying. Oh, thank you for dropping the link, Monkey. So there's a lot of nagging that goes on, especially if they're with their boyfriend. And I'm not saying this is specifically nerds. I'm saying this is women in general. They want attention. And a lot of the people that go with their partner to a place where they don't know people and they're sitting around the table, they're bored, they're not having fun, so they want to get attention from their partner. Otherwise, no, I don't find it that weird. It's just sometimes it's kind of annoying because you've got a bunch of guys who all think like guys, and then you've got one woman who thinks like a woman, and she doesn't want to go around and slaughter that village of orcs that's plaguing your village. And they're like, oh, no, maybe we should try talking to them. Or we could run them through and take all their gold and see if they have any magic arrows for my elf. No, they're always like, let's try and parlay, blah, blah, blah. Or they try too hard to act masculine, and that's just as annoying. Is there any reason for a crippled character? No, not unless it's like a story point or something, like you got to escort this prince who happens to be crippled just to make it more difficult for your party. Then you could do it. But having characters that are that way, it's just a hindrance. I'm sorry. That's nonsensical and unrealistic to say that there is any reason for a character to be out adventuring when they're crippled. And I know that's harsh to some people because they're stupid and they don't understand reality, but that's just the world. And I'm sorry that you don't understand that flying dragons would see you as a lunch snack. All-terrain attack wheelchairs. Yeah, well, in that case, you might have something there. If they were like cyborgs or something, that could be cool. Like you have an exoskeleton or you have cyber legs, then okay, but having a wheelchair is fucking dumb. Yeah, random. It's not so much them as characters or at the table playing. It's personalities usually. Usually women players annoy me because they're often trying too hard. But I don't have a problem with them. If you want to come in and play the same way everybody else is playing, that's cool, whatever. But don't come in and try and change a bunch of shit. Oh, let's try and be friends. You know, we're pirates, right? You know, or, hey, we're going to go dig up this holy item and escort it back to the priest or whatever our quest is. Oh, well, let's go over here and investigate this. Shut up. Maybe he's misunderstood. We'll kill him now. We'll understand him later. Right? The groups I typically like to play with are people that want to have fun and sometimes do goofy off the wall shit, like make fantasy flashlights by casting continual light on a coin and putting it at the bottom of a map case. Works great. Really funny too. Never gets old. But some people just have to put their weird social stuff in here. Oh, thank you, Baby Vaso. There's always the cliche or jokes, what have you, of tournaments having a hygiene issue. Have you ever experienced this in person or is it exaggerated for the memes? No, that is absolutely true. In the 90s, right around 95, 96. No, it was probably 97. I went to Origins with a couple of my buddies from college. And they were doing a live-action Vampire the Masquerade game down there. And we were playing D&D, and after the session ended, I was talking to my buddy Scott. Scott, if you're listening, because I think you do listen occasionally, I know you remember this, but we were talking about how stinky this one fat dude was. I mean, he smelled like 3 or 4 day old sweat and body grime. I was like, yeah, that dude smelled. And then we had to walk through this big group of vampire players. There were like 30 of them, and it stunk so bad. You could smell them coming from. It was the Hyatt Regency, and there's this catwalk from one section to another section of the convention center, and we were walking past them and through their group, and they smelled so bad. It was like this earthy funk, like if you had dug up a body, smeared it all over yourself after having run a marathon and not showered for 2 weeks, and then pooped yourself. That would be sort of the smell, but probably a much more flowery scent than what we inhaled. And I gagged so hard. It was so hard to get. It was like walking the gauntlet of death. and they were judging us like D&D nerds. And I'm like, whatever, Cthulhu's better than vampire. And that was one of the reasons I hated Vampire the Masquerade. It was that lingering odor. I still vividly remember that smell because it was so unique. It was like nothing I've ever smelled before, and hopefully never do again. Sorry, Johnny. Problem is, even if 9 out of 10 people have proper hygiene, the 10th will follow up the air for quite some time. Yeah, it's a lingering stench. Body odor has a very unique smell, and it lingers. Not funny, just cringe? Yeah, dude, it was cringe. That's why I always advocate deodorant in the swag bag. Absolutely. If they had a D&D brand deodorant and gave it away at every convention, it'd be a huge hit with some of us. Because it was a running joke for a long time, but it was an accurate one. Gamers stink. Like, we thought comic nerds smelled. Because, I was a comic nerd before I was a gamer. And we would go to conventions. But the first time we went to a gaming convention, the funk in there was amazing. Just walking in the door for registration, it smelled like feet, and then it got worse from there. That was the transition period, the going through the airlock before you went out on a spacewalk, but of scent instead of physical anti-gravity. I don't have a good analogy for this. Okay, just work with me here. Alrighty. So I did some research, and I found these minis, good ventilation. Yeah, no shit. You do not, if they're like, hey, we're going to game over in Hall A, and Hall A has no windows, don't game there. It's going to stink. And I found the miniatures on Etsy. $20 each. Not for all 4 of these, each. And I think there's 6 different ones. So you could get Gimpy Hatchet here, or you could get this druid chick. First of all, why would a druid have a wheelchair? That thing would have to be made out of all wood. So not exactly an ergonomical design. If you've ever seen a wagon wheel changed, sucks ass. She's not going to be able to do that. And look, they got like 4 wheels. They got these 2 little wheels and then the big wheels. And I've seen other ones on Etsy that have like giant shields on the side. These are designed more like the murder ball ones where the wheels are kind of out at an angle, which is fine. And there's a spike here, but you're not going to get up to running speed where you're going to do any real damage with these things. But if this wheel comes off, what are you going to do? Like the druid, okay, she could cast warp wood or something like that to try and fix it. But if it busts off the axle, she's hosed. Like, you're going to die down there. And what if there's a pit trap? How are you gonna get out? Just think of that. $20 each though. $20 and you scroll down. And shipping cost, it's out of Florida. And I looked it up based on my address. It was like $7 to ship it. So you're looking at almost $30 for one miniature. They're 32 millimeter, so they're standard size for modern time. These are the artist renditions. They're probably a little sloppier, but they got good recommendations. 118 reviews, largely positive. But that's a great scam. $30 for these? No, thank you. They're called cambered wheels. Oh, okay. I didn't know what they were called, but I knew they were what they used in Murder Ball. Because that movie was awesome. Those guys are hardcore. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you're a pussy for being in a wheelchair. I'm saying it's a dangerous thing to go into a combat situation with less than perfect functioning limbs. I don't want to run on the field because I'm fat and slow. But if you want to get into a big fight, even with your berserker rage, somebody's going to just tip you over. And then you're kind of fucked. Hey, Cracked, how you doing? Just toss gravel on the floor, wheelchair immobilized. Yeah, there's lots of different things that would screw you over in this. Yeah, Louis, it's really hard to express the smell of funk, like body odor funk, because it's often very individually based, because some people are grosser than others. And it can be based on how you eat and lifestyle, stuff like that. Because people that are fit, when they sweat, they don't stink quite like a bunch of big fat slobs that don't bathe. You know, there's different levels of funk, but the people that start sweating when they're really fat and don't bathe, that's a smell you can't unwash or wash out of your brain. You'll get it out of your clothes after 2 or 3 washes, but your brain will linger on that, and the trauma sets in. If you're in a wheelchair, you're really going to want your fantasies as such. You're going to still want to be in a wheelchair. That's what I'm saying. It's very limiting. Spell Sniper Fireball for the win. Yeah, Giant Eagles will eat you as well. Oh, thank you, Oki, for the donation. The Vampire Masquerade crowd when I was that age just smelled like clove cigarettes, essential oils from their crystals, depression, and desperation. You had to bathe them before sampling their low self-esteem in the hotel room. Right? I only ever saw 1 or 2 vampire chicks that were worth my time, and most of the dudes were kind of tubby. There were a lot of gay dudes in Vampire around that time, though, so I kind of missed out on the hot goth movement. It just went past me. A different era, you know. It's a magical wheelchair that lets them do literally everything, you bigot. Yeah, it was called Pression Points, the wheelchair. Yeah, clove cigarettes, though, that did mask some body funk. Or probably some crotch smells, too. But this leads in to the latest thing. And this is where I really wanted to get. So thank you for bearing with me. Let's get into it. This is a real treat. So it starts off innocuous enough. This is comicbook.com. I was surfing around and like, oh, what's all this? Dungeons & Dragons scraps controversial playtest subclasses from Strixhaven book. I was like, oh, D&D news. Cool. Let's check it out. Because I do love D&D, whether anybody believes it or not. I grew up with D&D, started playing in, 10? And then just kind of occasionally in high school, very rarely, played Cyberpunk a few times, Cthulhu, stuff like that. But I really got into it in college. Had some books, always had some stuff around. My brother played AD&D back in the day. So I've been around D&D for decades. And it's amazing what it's become. So I was like, controversial playtest subclasses, what's all this? What could be controversial about subclasses? Dungeons & Dragons has opted not to move forward with 5 subclasses that could be used by multiple player classes in their upcoming book, Strixhaven, A Curriculum of Chaos. Lead rules designer Jeremy Crawford confirmed they had scrapped the subclasses, each of which corresponded to one of the magical schools of Strixhaven Heaven's 5 colleges. What's this? During a Wizards of the Coast media event earlier this week, the Unearthed Arcana playtest did the job that we asked it to do. First of all, don't try and abuse the name Unearthed Arcana. That was an amazing book from first edition. Don't water it down with your stupid nonsense. Occasionally, we put some very experimental things in front of D&D fans and ask them if they want to see more of it. In this case, the very simple answer was no. We learned 2 really important things from this playtest that reinforce something we've been seeing from D&D community going back to D&D Next, the original playtest for 5th edition rules. People love the D&D subclasses to speak to the distinctiveness of a particular class. 5e fans also wanted subclasses to be usable in many settings as possible, since so many DMs homebrew their own settings. Yeah, that's fair. In this case, there's a bit of an uphill climb since the subclasses were so tied to a particular setting, that being the Magical College of Strixhaven. Starting to see where my nervousness is kicking in here, where you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Crawford noted that they were prepared for the fan base to reject the subclasses and prepared contingency plans in case they didn't work out. The subclasses will be replaced with other character options, such as feats tied to a specific college, which will support even more character types than the subclass would have. We could also see some design elements appear in future D&D products and other capacity, various new magic items, including magic textbooks. Wait a minute. Will also appear in the book to help players feel tied to their chosen Strixhaven college. Now, I know you're thinking probably what I was thinking of. What the fuck is going on here? Strixhaven A Curriculum of Chaos will feature some material in other playtests, as though the book contains the Alwyn playable character race, which appeared as the Owl Folk in a separate playtest released earlier this year. Wait, now what? 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 All right. Well, that got me thinking. This is dumb. This sounds absolutely ridiculous. This has to be a joke, right? Well, I went over to Sci-Fi Wire. Oh, don't jump ahead, Ryan. Don't jump ahead. And no cheating, BG. I understand what it is. I'm building up to something. It's called foreshadowing. You're all way ahead of me. That's not fair. So I went over to Sci-Fi Wire because I figured this is ludicrous. What are they talking about? Then I saw this image here. And I'm like, what the gay ass fuck is this? And I don't mean gay in the fun homosexual way. I mean it in the other way of, what now? There's Big Owl, nerdy black girl, because black people aren't allowed to be badass anymore. They got to all be effeminate nerds. And then I don't know what this dude's doing, but I think he's eyeballing some fighter guy over here that's working out in a gym. And I was like, oh, okay, there's an owl man here. D&D's Magic the Gathering crossover is ditching those weird subclasses. And this kind of repeats the same thing as what the other article did, but it had some new pictures, and I was like, all right, this is kind of dumb. I can't believe this is on two separate sources. So I went over to the D&D website, and I found that it's a real thing. And this is, like somebody said in chat, spoilers, a crossover with Magic the Gathering. So when I hear this is a crossover with Magic the Gathering, I know what they've done with Magic the Gathering by making it very, very stupid now. And I thought they couldn't possibly be infiltrating this much nonsense in one place, could they? Could they be going full hardcore SJW and doing what things like She-Ra and so many others have done, where they're yes, they did. They're infecting it full, just all over. I'm very flustered by this whole thing. So this comes out in November. It's $50, like most of the new books. Don't pay that much for it. The School of Magic is in session, rollicking campus adventures for the world's greatest role-playing game. Because that's what I wanted to do, was relive high school. The greatest minds of the multiverse met at Strixhaven University. Professors convey the fantastic secrets to eager students, and life on campus is frantic. But danger lurks here. Campus hijinks mixed with mishaps and sinister plots, and it's up to you to save the day. Strixhaven, a curriculum of chaos, introduces the fantastical setting of Hogwarts. I mean, Strixhaven University, drawn from the multiverse of Magic the Gathering, and provides rules for creating characters who are students in one of its 5 colleges. Now, D&D has had things that take place at wizard schools and stuff like that before, so this isn't exactly new. It's just new canon, and it is a crossover with Magic, so they're trying to make it like twice as annoying. Characters can explore the setting over the course of 4 adventures, which could be played together or on their own. Each adventure describes an academic year filled with scholarly pursuits, campus shenanigans, exciting friendships, hidden dangers, and perhaps even romance. Or you could just go to a community college and spend $350 and get something useful out of a real class. Through the book's multi-year campaign, players begin as first-year students who study, socialize, and adventure their way to graduation. Experience D&D in new ways through the academic challenges, extracurricular activities and jobs, and relationships explored on campus. I wonder if there's a half-giant groundskeeper, too, and a forbidden forest that he hangs out in. Includes 4 adventures that can be played as standalones or woven together to create one campaign, taking players from level 1 to level 10. Players can create characters using a new race presented in the book, an owlin, one of the owl folk who study at the university and bring you mail. You can play as Harry Potter's owl. Adds new character options, including feats and backgrounds. Includes new spells and magic items that help your character feel connected to the college they chose to join. Encounter over 40 magical, mysterious creatures and NPCs in the bestiary. Now, in the college, is there, I don't know, a griffin-based one? Maybe one based on crows? or in one made on snakes. I bet there is. And then Hufflepuff that nobody cared about. Strixhaven can be easily dropped into any D&D world or campaign with the rules, provided rules for venturing as a student of magic. Then there's a collector's edition that costs more. So I was looking at the pictures, right? And the one that struck me the most was this one right here. It doesn't want to open because this is an archive link, but they're dancing at what appears to be a gala of some kind. A sort of social event that seems to be popular with things like She-Ra and Steven Universe and all this other bullshit. I think it's called prom. So you're going to D&D prom. So yeah, this really pissed me off because this is so fucking stupid. First of all, owl characters, really? You're going to deliver my mail, aren't you, owl? That's what I would make them do if I ran this. It would be Hogwarts with lots of evil shit. But, wait, there's more. This is from Polygon. D&D's Strixhaven campaign has mechanics for what a hot mess college life can be. These are like freshmen in college writing this? What is going on? Make besties and frenemies. Gay couple, man and woman not touching each other. And I'm betting he's gay. But look at this. They're looking longingly into each other's eyes. This is gayer than Samwise and Frodo at the end of Return of the King. And maybe they're going to go scissor action somewhere. I don't know. This is a thing that really exists. Give me 1 second. Thank you, Dark Resurrect. See how like old Magic the Gathering when they had eldritch beings threatening the multiverse or Borg-like metal robotic cults taking over a mana-rich plane from its core? Not the floofy frou-frou shit. Yep. They took something that was hardcore cool and they made it weird for awkward people. The people that played were awkward enough. Damn right, Shroom. If it ain't THAC0, it ain't D&D. Abandoning THAC0 absolutely was a mistake. They started this shit a long time ago. The slow changes. We saw it in 3, and then they had to correct stuff for 3.5, but they started then. And it's been going ever since. In Curse of Strahd, they had a gay couple in there. Nobody cared because it was like a random encounter thing. But it's been slowly growing, and now you get to relive the college experience, pretend you're Harry fucking Potter, and have your little gay prom, literally a gay prom, in college, and your owl that brings you your mail is now an adventuring class. This is fucking ridiculous. Are you learning cantrips as a student? Yeah, but this is going to be dumber. I'm going to keep writing about the Dragon Sourcebook for it. Yeah, right? You got to, there has to be cool gaming out there somewhere. Rifts at least isn't selling out yet. Can the owlkin mate with bears? That would explain owl bears. Probably, yeah. They changed it because they wanted to, and annoying normies didn't understand. I don't get it. Subtract the armor? What? One of the colleges are eco-goths, black and green. That doesn't surprise me. That's a good one, Rodline. Can we eat the owl? Yes, they're not human. They're owls. So, let me get back to the article here. I just wanted to check in with the chat real quick. And I was like, okay, this is, as soon as I saw this image on the other page and I found this article, I was like, oh dear God, this is worse than I thought. Because I didn't realize that these were both dudes right away, and these were both chicks, but this just tells you what you can expect. A magical adventure. This is going to be fucking boring. Who is this fun for? Where's the sense of adventure? They have done everything they can to take away every entertainment form that has any sense of adventure and heroism. It's all gone. Any sense of going out and exploring things? No, they want to do social drama class. This is fucking weird. All the drama kids just ruined D&D. Sorry, drama kids. There were a lot of weirdos in your groups. When making Dungeons & Dragons campaign books based on the world of Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast designers have come up with ways to make existing mechanics and characters from the collectible card game fit into an entirely different set of established rules. It's not that hard, you fucking idiots. That was especially challenging for the team behind the upcoming book Strixhaven, A Curriculum of Chaos, because they were also looking for a way to translate the college experience. Why? Magic users come in all stripes and ages. You don't have to be like a 10-year-old or a college student to learn to be a wizard. I mean, it seems like some people have more of a natural inclination to that. At least that's how wizards used to be portrayed. Now this is some like living vicariously through your fantasy character because you had a sad life in college or something. It's gross. Get a therapist, you weirdos. As we reflected on our own experience as university students, we looked at not only how much excitement there can be, but what a hot mess college life can be. Principal designer Jeremy Crawford said during a press conference Monday, the relationships you can build become really dear and affectionate, but they can also go the other direction, and you can end up with a frenemy who might end up causing you trouble. You mean like, I don't know, book 5 where Harry was all emo and stuff and him and Ron had a falling out? I'm going to use that example. Based on Magic the Gathering set Strixhaven School of Mages, Strixhaven, A Curriculum of Chaos is set at a school for wizardry that owes a fair bit to the Harry Potter universe series' signature school, Hogwarts. No shit. Shocker on that one. Students and teachers at Strixhaven are divided among 5 colleges with their own magical foci. For example, Prismari draws on the power of the elements, while Silverquill's members use words as weapons through battle poetry and cutting insults. So we're going to have a slam poetry session throwdown, and my battle poetry. This is so fucking stupid. In spite of that concept, you don't have to play as a magic using class in Strixhaven game. All players will receive a free campaign feat that will grant them some magical ability based on one of the colleges. It's not so much a university to learn how to be a caster as it is a university to learn about magic and the application of magic and the existence of magic in the world, senior designer Amanda Hammond said. The designers developed rules to simulate college life, including taking tests and working on campus. Oh, dude, roll a d20 to tell me if I passed my test. Depending on how well you do on your exams, which mostly consists of skill checks and a lot of flavor, you'll get bonus going forward in the story. It's a choose-your-own-adventure book. The book also contains rules for building up relationships with other students, which affects the narrative but also has mechanical impacts on the game. There are personality profiles for 18 NPCs spread across the 5 colleges, and players can interact with them during relationship encounters such as improv festival, house party, or pitch perfect style singing competitions. Guys, I know there's some gamers out there. If you were in a D&D game and the DM was like, all right, you can go through the scary hedge maze that has lots of traps, or you could go compete in the pitch perfect singing competition followed by battle poetry. I think you really need to reevaluate a lot in your life if you're going for the singing competition, unironically. The decision players make during these encounters could earn them new allies or rivals who will try and interfere with their plans. Yeah, I'm kind of on the side of the villains on this one. Unlike previous Magic crossovers, which were set in different worlds, Strixhaven is designed to be dropped into any D&D campaign. The book features an adventure that can be played for levels 1 to 10 or broken up into 4 standalone games, which represent a year spent at the college. Each of these can be completed in 2 or 3 sessions. What a waste of time. The bestiary contains 40 new creatures, plus NPCs, including professors and the dragons that founded each college. Players will also find rules for Alwyn, a new avian race that was previously tested in Unearthed Arcana, plus feats, spells, and items such as magical texts to further immerse them in the setting. This comes out on November 16th. Version of the book with an alternate cover will be available exclusively at local game stores. This cover is stupid. This looks like an old Earth Dawn book from like 1987. It doesn't look like a D&D book. It looks really generic and boring. This at least looks like a D&D book. At least on the cover. I could not believe that this was a real thing. This is fucking boring. Seriously, guys, who wants to do a slam poetry session with battle poetry? Give me the freaking hedge mage, right? Wood chipper. It's been long overdue having educational games not targeted toward toddlers. Yeah. Yeah, if it was even semi-educational, maybe, but hey guys, we don't know how to make up our own stories. Hope that's okay. Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, they want to relive college and actually kiss the girl or guy or otherkin. You're not wrong. Slated Dragon. Is there still time to make the poetry contest? Cover looks like Earth Dawn First Edition. Yep, absolutely. At least the main cover they had there for the regular stores didn't look quite as stupid, but the other one just looked awful. Thank you, Baby Vaso. Due to the lack of agricultural economy system, it's bad enough first world birth rates have been dramatically decreasing. It's bad enough women's empowerment is turning women into men. Now they're trying to normalize globo homo. This isn't the way, Iceman. Yeah, they're making everything fun boring. And that's what this book looks like. It looks boring. And I can't go along with that. It would be one thing if it was like, okay, you're at a wizard college and you're going to test your skills in the real world where, like Harry Potter actually did stuff. He has spells like the Defense of the Dark Arts. That sort of thing was practical for a wizard to have. Battle poetry? I'm sorry. What did you say? You want to incorporate your weird, sad goth poetry about your dad leaving for cigarettes and not coming back into a D&D game? Where was the DM that was like, no, that's stupid? Nobody tells these people no. You missed battle poetry, monkey. Battle poetry. Slam poetry time. That's what's in this book is you can have battle poetry. I'm hung up on that. You can have singing competitions, house parties, improv festivals. That's what awaits you in Strixhaven. That's what they've done to D&D and Magic the Gathering. They have made it pussified. Yeah, if you were a bard, that would be one thing. If this was a bard school, that would make sense. Where you have like a music competition or something. But this is a wizard school. This is strictly for magic users. This is not bard magic. This is for actual, like, I want to be a battle mage. Oh, yeah? Well, you better brush up on your 8 Mile, buddy, because there's going to be a throwdown. What? Fucking dumb. So you're technically doing damage? Well, the only damage is going to be to your psyche for playing this crap. Found the silver lining. This will give regular D&D players someone to beat up on. No longer will they be picked up. Right? That's the problem with nerd stuff being mainstreamed, thanks Stranger Things, is that stuff like this has become attached by the parasitical hanger-ons that want to change everything to whatever their weird mental problem is. Therapy and headband would be the next inclusion. Probably. Oh, no, it'll be you'll multi-class, but each of your headmates is a different class, so you'll only have the ability of whichever headmate is in charge. So you can have like the ultimate character of like, I have a wizard and I have a barbarian and I have a druid. Because those are 3 of my main personalities. There's a mystery 4th one I'm not going to tell anyone about. And each one has different abilities, so I can be whatever I need to be. Fucking ridiculous. Deals 5 plus d6 psychic damage to the player. Yeah, absolutely. It really did me. No video games were badass until women were shoehorned into them. Yeah, video. Well, yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like, even Tomb Raider was badass because men designed it, and Laura Croft was out robbing tombs and kicking ass. She wasn't a fucking foo-foo pussy running around like, oh, I gotta use my pronouns. There's going to be a magical enchantment in this book. I would put money this is going to happen. There's a secret door somewhere in that stupid wizard college that's like the rumor requirement, I think it's called, that you needed a passcode for, but there's a statue, and you have to use her correct pronouns in order to get in. I would put money that's in there. If it's not, it should be. I could do this better because I know how these fucking idiots think. But this just pissed me off so much. And then, to top it off, I was reading the latest issue of Shadow Man. And at the end of the book, there's a preview for Ninjak. And at the back of that, there's an ad for Mutants and Masterminds. The new version of that's coming out. And I shit you not, there's a character sheet for Ninjak. You got it right here. Ninjak, there's a box. Power level 11. Real name, Colin King. Occupation, mercenary. Affiliation, MI6, Unity. Pronouns, he, him. We're fucking doing this, guys. This is gaming in the modern era. Mutants and Masterminds used to be an awesome superhero game. Now has pronouns. Alrighty, we're doing this. They're going all out. Open magical locks is a skill, fortunately. Yeah. Xanax for the anxiety, Play-Doh for the stress. Good one, Rod. I like that. Same can be said for comics where the audience was concentrated. They had no other choice but to provide exactly what people wanted. I don't think they're trying to empty their bank accounts. They just can't figure out how to please everyone. They shouldn't try to please everyone. They should do what works and what sells. And this stuff is not selling. And the more desperate they get, the more they double down on all of the wrong things. They don't try and maintain the audience they had for what was very popular. D&D sold really well in the 80s with the Satanic Panic, but instead of caving, they made small capitulations, like they just changed the names of the demons to shut up the Christians. I don't think they should have done that, but that was an executive decision. And the controversy had actually made them sell more, but they did that anyway to appease people and try and get the super Jesus people off their back. And it kind of worked. The furor died down, especially after Pat Paulding died in the mid-90s. But they constantly started caving in various ways. And that's why D&D kind of fell apart, is they were trying too much to water down stuff too much. And it lost a little bit of popularity in the late 90s. That's when Wizards bought it. And 3rd edition was really, really popular. 3.5 was, anyway. And the open gaming license really blew everything up for them, and they became very, very popular, very good. And then it went to 4th edition, and it was stupid. So 5th edition, the mechanics are fine. It's a pretty good system, and it's still really popular. But, hey, James, but they're doing this weird stuff because they've got a bunch of people that can't see out of their little hug box, and they want to accommodate all their goofy little friends. And what they did was, they accommodated their friends at the expense of their fan base. So a lot of the older fans feel very alienated, and they're sticking to the older editions. That's why the popularity of Pathfinder is there, because it follows the 3.5 rules. And they are really, really punishing the older fans that have more money and are willing to spend it on their nostalgia, if nothing else. I've got the rule books for 5th edition. I don't play, but I bought them because I wanted to see what the new edition looked like. And I got them for $20 a piece on Amazon. No, I got them off eBay. There was some bookseller had the, you know how they put the little dot on there for like overstock? So I got them that way. I got a couple adventures, The Rise of Tiamat and the Queen of the Dragon Horde or something like that. I don't think I've ever read that. But the other books look fine. I've got the Strahd one around somewhere in some storage thing. But yeah, I've got a bunch of the books. And they looked fine. I was going to look for a gaming group, but I don't really have time now. And then I see this crap. It's ridiculous. Started playing D&D back in 1977. Spent my birthday money to pick it up at the mall. That's awesome. Christians were complaining, though. One of the biggest gamers I knew, both in size and collection, was a deeply religious man. Yeah, I gamed with a lot of Christians. I used to game with these two brothers. They're really cool guys, and their dad was a preacher, and he bought them the books. He's like, because I asked him about it, I was like, do you have a problem with us playing D&D in your basement? Because we did play in their basement for years. He's like, no, because it's a game of good versus evil. You're not playing the monsters. You're fighting the monsters. You're going to places and killing bad guys. And I was like, yeah, that's, huh. And he's like, yeah, I've talked to people about this before. And you're not casting real spells. You're using an energy source to vanquish villains and creatures and horror monsters. There's not doing bad things. I was like, yeah, it's cool. Hey, Pete, how you doing, man? Oh, thank you, Rodline. The most dangerous spell in this new version is misgender. Cast it, and your party must call you by your biological gender. Oh, no. And wizards at this stupid wizard school must be susceptible to dead naming. And that mortally wounds them, and they have to go cry to their teachers. But battle poetry. Seriously, battle poetry. That is the stupidest fucking thing I have ever fucking heard of. I get bards cast spells by inspirational songs played on their little lyres and mandolins or whatever. Fine. I think bards are kind of dumb, but I get that. That's its own kind of class. But you're at a wizard college and you're having a singing competition. Seriously, drama people, stop playing D&D. Stick to your weird ska stuff and leave me alone. Okay, go over there and play. Go to your Renfest and do that shit over there. I don't tell you how to run Renfest. You don't tell me how to run my D&D sessions. Fucking weird. I'm Wonderbar. How you do? I'm not bad. Is that like rap battles but poetry? Yeah, and it's not nearly as cool. They seriously have combat where they read poetry at each other. The new book is just Harry Potter for really sad losers. It's not even like the cool parts of Harry Potter where you're like, oh no, I miscast the spell and it created this monster and we got to go kill it because it's rampaging through the village or whatever. No, it's all the worst parts. Like, oh, we're going to have a slam poetry session where we talk about things and the owl people. If I was a DM, if a player decided to play an SJW character, they will have to take the penalty. Ira Vengeful God needs more jugglers. They do need more jugglers more often than not. Monster Hunter does bards better. Giant war horns you beat the monsters with. Yeah, I could get behind that. They're just taking all the fun out of this. I really do not understand it. I find it very strange and tiresome, and I could just see all the pink hair that was in the room at the table, and they're all introducing themselves with their pronouns, and the side of their head is shaved, and they're constantly flipping their hair to one side, go, well, from my lived experience, I think we need more wheelchair accessibility in this castle. Ugh. As inflation outpaced comics, is more or less expensive to produce comics out. No, it's by the inflation, comics should be about $2.50. At most $3 if the inflation calculators would be believed. But they're just charging more because they can. They think they're giving you a better product, even though they're not. The penalty is a troll to the face. That's what. The book is called Strixhaven, A Curriculum of Chaos. It's a new D&D supplement that crosses over with Magic the Gathering. The two properties that Wizards of the Coast is really trying hard to destroy. Sorry, Keldrig. How you doing, man? It wasn't made for you, straight white male. Yeah, that'll be their excuse. But guess who the majority of their audience is? Straight white men. They do not understand that what they want and what other people want are often different things. And if you go over into one group and change everything about it radically, those people won't buy it anymore. It's weird. Yeah, Sean, that's what I would have done. Like, okay, you want to make your wheelchair character cool. All right, Dragon flies by and eats him. Make a new character. After they spent 20 minutes making the whole stupid thing, like all kitted out and everything, like, yeah, Red Dragon swoops down and eats you and breathes fire on everyone else because you're a fucking idiot. Now make a real character or get out. I have minimal tolerance for this shit. It's so fucking dumb. I've gamed with some of these people over the years and they didn't come back after a while because they figured it out that I wasn't going to put up with their nonsense, their weirdo nonsense. And it wasn't even this bad back then. It just makes me mad that they want to have, if you want to do a wizard college setting, fine, I get that. From a marketing standpoint, that would sell. You can make a lot of money off the Harry Potter weirdos, but you're taking all the weird, stupid parts of Harry Potter and making it not fun. Thank you, Circus Zero. Now cast Polymorph. Spell failed. Targets are already sheep. Sadly true. Like, there were a lot of cool elements about Harry Potter, like the haunted bathrooms, the people in the paintings. You could do some stuff with that. Hidden rooms, awesome. Some of the teachers are up to something cool. You could do that. Greater mystery is hidden in the dungeon, maybe. There was a troll running around in Harry Potter in the one episode or whatever. Fine, that could be really cool. Powerful artifacts, that sort of stuff. They took all that and were like, I want to play an owl person. And I want to have a singing competition. And we need to have an impromptu festival. And we need to have prom. That's weird. That's weird to have a prom in D&D. I haven't dug into Strixhaven yet. I'm not sure I want to. Dude, read the article. It's fucking dumb. It's about the explosives shows up down the hallway, followed by a fireball. Right? Well, 2d10 based on DM's D4. Yeah. Yeah, you rolled. Make your save. You failed. I mean, let me again show you the picture that really got my dander up. This is why I'm calling D&D a dumpster fire. You have the Burger King Kids Club. You've got a little bit of everything. You got different racial classes for whatever reason. There's a black gay dude lovingly staring at this blue elf. 2 dudes, 2 chicks, and the friend zone. And the magical sparklies all around. This is a prom setting. This is the weird obsession that SJWs have with prom is bizarre. The fact that She-Ra had a prom was weird. It was really, really weird. And we've seen that in a lot of animated shows lately where they have these proms and they can't seem to avoid that. And now they're doing it in D&D where you have, I need to relive my college and high school years at the Wizarding World of Strixhaven. It's just weird to me. And nothing about this looks fun. This dude looks effeminate. This dude is effeminate. That dude, if that is a dude, well, let's just say he's dancing with her, but I don't think there's any desire to be touching. And these 2 chicks are going to go scissor action somewhere. But nobody looks like an adventurer. Nobody looks like they go anywhere and do stuff. They don't look rough and tumble. They don't look like they could put down an ogre. They all look like they would pee themselves if a big spider came through the room. These people don't look badass. Magic the Gathering used to have really badass looking characters. The chicks looked badass. The dudes looked badass. And then somewhere along the line, they all looked like they sipped soy lattes with their pinkies out. The word bourgeoisie comes to mind quite a bit. Thank you, Baby Vaso. DC and Marvel's mindset is similar to Nintendo. Nintendo makes changes to their games that are against the players' wishes, but they have such a large normie support net that they don't listen, but still sell like gangbusters. Hopefully people will come around. That's the problem, though, is when DC and Marvel are doing it, they're just alienating people. They're not selling to normies at all. The market has dwindled so heavily that I think we're going to see this with a lot of the fantasy RPG stuff. And D&D is still the biggest seller. And if they push out the normies, their sales are tanking. And that's what we've seen over the past year or so, is that sales are going way, way down. And the 5th edition is not that old. It shouldn't be going down this quickly. And they're already talking about a 6th edition. It's ugly, fat Harry Potter fans who didn't get a prom. Yeah, true. Before this, they just watched She's All That over and over again. Yeah. Oh, God, that's horrifying. She's All That is the perfect example. You don't understand the prom push. The writers never went to prom and thus have to do it in a fantasy setting. Yeah, but I don't get it. Like, stop peaking in high school. You have your whole life ahead of you. Go out and do something real. High school doesn't matter. Who cares? What a waste of time to be so obsessed with some random social interaction that should not be the focus of your life going forward. You should not be pining over a dance like that. I understand that for some people that is an important social event because you probably got pregnant at it, but I don't see the obsession with it. I just do not understand the love of prom. 5th edition is not that bad, Monkey, but it's no 2nd edition. Let's be honest. 2nd edition was much cooler because they had Thaco. I love She's All That, but it's a really weird movie for women to get obsessed with. It is. It is. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but She's All That's a great example. That and 10 Things I Hate About You, which was just Taming the Shrew. I didn't even go to prom. No one wanted to go. I wasn't allowed to go to prom. I was actually banned from prom because they thought I might get killed or I might kill someone. I'm not sure which. I peaked in high school, got detention for a week. For most of these SJW types, prom is the end of their life. Once after college reality sets in, the depression begins. Yeah, but college I could kind of understand pining for that a little more, but some of these events that just obsess over, these are clearly people that are like maybe 30 years old and that they have no direction in their life. They don't want to do anything or go out. They're so wrapped up in themselves that they seem to obsess on these minuscule little things that should not be important. You take a trip to like India, that's way more interesting than your fucking prom where you dance with some asshole you never talk to again. Well, the one thing I didn't go to because I didn't like any of those people. Yeah. Who cares? Your parents care. You don't. Most people don't give a shit. 5th edition is garbage with too much nonsense thrown in. Give me 3.5 any day. I don't like 3.5. It's too easy to make power characters. I went to 2 proms. Yeah, a lot of people did. I didn't bother. I didn't want to go. Didn't care to go. It was a waste of money, and it's an expensive waste of money because like you're spending a bunch of money on a dress you're going to wear once if you're a chick, or a guy's got to run a tux. What a waste of cash. So what? You can go make an ass of yourself for a couple hours after school with a bunch of assholes from school. If I wanted that, I'd join a sport. A dance with a woman I still want to dance with. Was that your wife? Are you sucking up to Lady Monkey right now? We didn't have prom here when I was in school. We had a debutante ball, or Deb for short. Pretty much the same thing, just no king and queen shit. Huh. Well, you didn't miss anything. It's just stupid shit. It's just popularity contest. I was homeschooled, so my prom was a bowl of Butterfinger ice cream and Keenan and Keel. You won. You won, dude. Peak at 85% peak in elementary and middle school. You're not wrong. I only ever played 2nd edition. It was all right. I loved 2nd ed, man. It had all the great settings. You had Planescape. You had Ravenloft was my favorite. Dark Sun was badass. And everything kind of got watered down afterward, and they started tinkering with everything. When Wizards took over, they started tinkering with stuff that was already working. And they got rid of Thaco, and Thaco was so easy to explain to people. Once you explained it, it was fine. Everybody grasped it. But until you explained it, some people were like, I don't get it. It's loud, bad music and the bang. Yeah, it was mostly to try and get laid. Have a good one, Kyle. Don't rent a tux, buy it for multiple uses. Yeah, shot down for prom, so I said, fuck it. Yeah, I don't blame you. So it's just a waste of money. But, all right, that was my rant. I just wanted to complain about this new Strixhaven book. I think it looks dumb, and it's just high school for weird losers, and they're trying so hard to demolish D&D. And I hope to God, if the TSR guys are listening right now, release a fantasy setting that isn't made for pussy little crybabies. I don't care about the trans nonsense. I don't think Gary Gygax was racist or sexist. I don't think that he cared about trans people. Nobody does. Come to the table and don't be an asshole. That's the only rule. And if you want your weirdo politics, go find some other weirdos to play with. But don't make it canon. Stop trying to make everything not fun. Sometimes you just want to kill some orcs. And that's not code for black people, weirdos. That was too much math. Subtraction. Well, you were getting late all the time, monkey. I don't look good in a tux. I look like a fat guy going to court. Exactly, Ginger. See, if they were smart, the scenario where you're having an impromptu festival, it gets crashed by trolls and they try and murder everyone. See, that would be fun. Because then there's combat and you're doing adventuring shit. Not just, oh, I rolled a dance. Ugh, gross. Brought himself to prom. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to me rant. I got that out of my system. I just wanted to complain about this stupid book. And I'm going to wait till one of my friends gets it, and then I'm going to laugh at them for spending $50 on it. What a fucking joke. I want to play an owl. Shut up, freaks. Battle poetry. For fuck's sake. Anyway, thank you so much for the donations. Thanks for coming out and listening. And dude, I really appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out. And thanks for dropping links, Monkey. I had a chart when I DM'd, made it easy. Yeah, I had a fucking ton of stuff, so I didn't have to really do anything. It was just flip a few pages and there it is. Shitload of suits, but never a tux. I never had a tux. I have like one suit and a sport coat somewhere. I don't even know where they are because I don't dress up for anything. Nobody invites me to stuff. Not sure why. Real friend would warn them. You'd think so. You can make your game about absolutely anything. If you want to explore social issues, you can. If you want a dungeon crawl, you can. Absolutely. But don't make it canon. And that's what they're doing. This is fan fiction for weird, sad, lonely people that aren't gamers. They're just weird, sad, lonely parasites that want to destroy and infest everything that they feel entitled to destroy because somebody else likes it and somebody else is having fun. And we got to push back on that so they don't ruin D&D. Don't ruin D&D. They're making it into a magical dumpster fire. And I came up with that because I pictured a wizard casting a fireball spell that only affected dumpsters. And I called it the Antifa Fireball. Anyway, that'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for coming out. Don't forget to keep an eye out for the notice when Monkey in the Morning goes live. And come back on Wednesday for the next week's comics stream, and on Friday for Friday Night Comics, where I'll read a bunch of news articles, and I'll probably complain about Kevin Smith a lot. But thank you so much for coming out. Thanks for the donations. You guys are awesome. It was good seeing everybody, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.